Mercury Awards drawing closer in, we will recall the shortlist nominees. Firstly, we have Gaz Coombs with his album, Matador.
The hero's fate is played out before the crowd.
Aphex Twin with his album, Syro. Benjamin Clementine with his brilliant debut album, At Least For Now.
I'm alone in a box of stone. When all is said and done,
C. Duncan in his debut, Architect. Esker with her self-titled debut. Florence and the Machine with the album How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful.
Don't touch the sleeping pills, they mess with my head. Stretching up great white sharks, swimming in the bed.
Ghost Poet with the album Shedding Skin.
simmer down, simmer down. They're taking liberties, blatant lie, I don't exist. Rage grows inside of me. I wanna fight, just give him a kick. Voice deep in my head.
Jamie XX solo debut, In Colour. Roisin Murphy with Hairless Toys.
Players house girl.
Waves and their debut, Are You Satisfied?
He wasn't a fool. She made sugar taste like salt. 'Cause she was so sweet. Now you're shuffling your feet with your hands in your pockets.
Soak and her debut album, Before We Forgot How to Dream.
Stars and moon remind me of you. I don't know what they say. It might make it worse. I don't understand what her problem is. I think she's just a fish.
And last but not least, Wolf Alice with My Love Is Cool.
Makes me squirm. Just one slice. Makes me squirm.
Now, on to music around the world. The driver of the South by Southwest hit and run in 2014 has been sentenced to life in prison, charged on capital murder after he killed 4 people. Wolf Alice have announced a 16-date UK Academy tour, with 3 dates at London's famous O2 Forum. Apple Music have recently stated that they have 3 times less subscribers than Spotify, with Apple only having 6.5 million worldwide. 8.5 million still use a free-month trial. A member of U2, The Edge, said the music industry is broken because of streaming services like Apple and Spotify, because these streaming services don't pay royalties to the record companies or artists. At the end of October, Foo Fighters released a countdown on their website to the 23rd of November. Fans speculate that it was a Season 2 Sonic Highways, or the day Dave Grohl gets his cast off his leg after he broke it in June. All fans have to go on is a date and an Instagram post with the words, "The niche is drawn," in front of a black and white picture of a house.
Is the hottest rivalry.
Music Scope. I'm Amber Can, and today we're going to be discussing conflicts between bands. As many of you may know or at least heard of the 2 major bands Oasis and Blur. One of the most popular and to this day still rememberable is the conflict between Oasis and Blur, both much loved bands at the height of the 90s Britpop. The rivalry kicked off mostly when Blur decided to release their single on the same day as Blur. Unlike Blur, Oasis were able to achieve sustained sales in the UK thanks to the singles Wonderwall and Champagne Supernova. At the peak of Britpop years, Blur and Oasis respective labels decided that as a big market stunt they would release their new singles on the same day. This created huge head-to-head conflict between the 2 bands. The resulting news coverage turned this event into a bitter class war between the northern working class and the southern middle class. In the end, Blur's Country House won over Oasis' Roll With It, but neither were the strongest offerings from each of the albums. So we have Josh in the studio today to talk to us about this. Hello, Josh.
Hey.
What is the most memorable feud you can remember?
Well, memorable, I think, definitely the feud between Lynyrd Skynyrd and Neil Young. Neil Young sort of slagged off the South in quite a few of his songs. Very quite hurtful imagery. And, well, they wrote a whole song about it, which is Sweet Home Alabama, which is a really memorable song to this day. So, definitely the most memorable feud.
So, why does this stand out to you then?
Well, as I said, they wrote an entire song about it, and if you say to anyone now, Sweet Home Alabama, no question, they know what it is.
Okay. Do you think musicians try to compete with each other more these days than back in the day?
Depends what you mean by compete. Definitely there's more sort of market competing,
Rivalry.
like for money, because there's more money in it these days. But definitely not as such as in the sort of actual conflict.
So, do you think social media's had a impact on the competitivity of bands, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, you can get millions of new followers overnight, or lose millions of followers overnight from one single action, everything's seen on social media. So yeah, definitely it's a big impacting factor.
Do you think social media is a bad influence for conflict?
I wouldn't say bad, but it can cause bad conflicts, yeah, because it can almost catalyse a conflict and, well, increase it overnight.
So, do you think bands fight to enhance their public image?
Definitely. I mean, as you said with Oasis and Blur, they sort of did that whole thing so more people would join the argument, thus more records sold. But any PR is good PR. So.
Cool. Thank you, Josh. We go to Joey shortly after the break.
Your laptop looks very bare. That can't be very inspiring. Decal Girl can turn your laptop from old to gold. With decalgirl.com, the sky's the limit. Have professional preset orders made for you or customize your very own. With Decal Girl, you can live your life with style.
Get up, still dig each other, still and laugh.
We now move on to the topic of music piracy and industry.
Funny, strange.
Music piracy
thing that
is
we
the
do for a
copying and
living.
distributing
It's a very
of copies of a piece of music for which the composer,
different world,
recording
you know,
artist,
and,
or copyright-holding record company
So we just
did
try to,
not
you know,
give
you have to
consent.
enjoy what you're doing. You have to care
In the
about what you're
contemporary
doing. You have to
legal
mean what
environment,
you're doing,
it's
especially
a
in this
form
day
of
and age,
copyright
you know, it's not
infringement, which is wrong and a crime in many countries. The late 20th and early 21st centuries saw much controversy about copyright piracy, regarding the ethics of redistributing media content, how much production and distribution companies in the media were losing, and the very scope of what ought to be considered piracy. This has become a hot subject recently due to the slow collapse of the music industry. Artists are speaking out on how piracy means shortage of funding towards the biggest creative industry. From the underground dubstep scene to the burning flame of rock and roll, everyone is being affected. Sean Kinney of Alice in Chains speaks about his current view on the industry and gives some advice to anyone that wants to create music in a band and become successful.
Making a whole lot of money doing it and stuff isn't really, you know, that was never the motivation anyway, but that's pretty much gone, so you better like what you're doing, and we just always have, you know, there's no other reason to do it. If you don't like what you're doing and who you're doing it with, then go do something else, you know. I mean, it's a free-for-all. You just got to try to figure out how you can fit in and how you can make it work, but to sustain it, it's a lot harder to sustain something now, because say you make a record and you spend all this money and months and time, and you spend all this, you know, it's not free to do that, and you spend all this hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that, and then you set up a tour and that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you go out and everybody wants everything for free. You can't continue to do that. You know, it's a lot harder to tour. It's a lot harder to create music now because there's no infrastructure for it. When there's no income, we came from a time when, where people bought records and you would see that income because you got paid for your work. If people liked it, they bought it and you got a little piece of that. Now that's pretty much gone. Like the last records we've made, you don't see a dime. Sold 1 million albums. You don't see it. Doesn't matter. You already spent all that money to get the buses, and so, you don't. Your income's pretty much over. So you better just really love what you're doing.
What Sean is saying is if you want to make music, do it because you love the music, not because you want a source of income. I recently got to interview Dan Z of Atlantic Shore. I asked him about his views on the topic of piracy as an upcoming artist. Right, hello Dan, thank you for joining me today. Here we have Dan from Atlantic Shore. So, how did you start out?
Well, I was at Shipbrake. I met Will C, who plays bass in my band. Started writing songs, and we met a drummer called Eddie. And we've been doing it for like 3 years, and it's just been progressing slowly.
Yeah, wicked. What bands are you sort of listening to at the moment, looking out for?
Bit of everything, man. Bit of the old like Smiths, Joy Division, always. Nice. And then the new stuff like Catfish, and always like bit of Killers. Yeah. Bit of everything. Nice blend.
Awesome. How much of your music have you released during your time being active as a band?
Well, we've released probably about overall 5 tracks, but we always take them down to on SoundCloud. We've done one proper release now, which is on iTunes, which is going to stay there hopefully. We've done a video for that, but it's just the one thing up that will stay here.
So is your music available out there where it can be downloaded for free?
Yeah, it can be. This can't be downloaded for free, unfortunately. This is on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.
Yeah.
But we're recording an EP this summer after exams, which is going to be for free download.
Do you feel this could be beneficial to band's promotion, it being free?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're starting a website, so basically well, we think giving out for free is, at the stage we're at, we don't have a big enough fan base to expect people to pay for it.
Yeah.
So giving out for free is kind of just better at where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And with sites such as Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, music promotion can be done cost-free with the drawback of not receiving any money for the tracks you put up. So is it really worth it for something you've gone through the effort to create? Or
we think it is, definitely, because social networking sites like that, they enable you to really like connect with your fan base if there is one, and like to really talk to them and more what's the word, intimate almost. Yeah.
Now moving on to our main topic, what are your feelings on music piracy and really the sort of overall piracy of art, modern art?
Well, I know there's a lot of mixed opinions about it, but I think Ed Sheeran said, I kind of agree with what he said about he doesn't mind if people have his music for free, because at the end of the day there's no money in making records now.
Yeah.
All the money's in the live performances, and if people are hearing your music from free download, well, it means that they've got more chance of going to a show, even if they haven't paid for it, because you don't get any money from it. The label takes everything anyway. Unless you're an indie label.
Yeah. So to what extent do you feel online piracy might affect you, or has it already affected you?
Definitely hasn't yet affected us, but if we were to get lucky and get signed to someone and get big enough, then I think it would kind of be an honour to have our stuff on piracy websites almost.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah. Would you consider vinyl, releasing vinyl? Because that's now on the rise now. It's becoming quite popular again.
I love the novelty of having vinyls. I'd love to do that.
Physical copy of it.
Yeah, I would love to do that, but it's quite expensive, and I think if we had something we were proud enough of, then it would be worth it. But not until then. Sell them to my dad. That's about it.
Do you think it can be stopped?
I don't think so. No, I don't think there's any way of stopping it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Dan, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Joe.
We now go over to Scarlett, who's in Vauxhall Studios talking to Alice Carston.
I'd be in trouble if you left me now, 'cause I don't know where to look for love. I just don't know how. Oh, girl, how I depend on you to give me love when I need it. Right on time, you would always be. All my friends call me a fool. They say, let the woman take care of you. So I try to be hip and think like the crowd. But even the crowd can't help me now.
I love about living now in Brooklyn, it's kind of like, it feels like London, it feels like home, it feels like I've been here for a while. You know, there's a big West Indian and African contingency down here, so it feels like family. You know, I never felt like I left the city at all.
Girl, you told me your name. Said you were one in a million. 'Cause you're my light in the dark, and I sing with all of my heart. Hallelujah, my almighty God divine. Hallelujah, I am yours and you are mine. There is no night at all, nothing that can do within these walls. No one with an answer anymore that we can depend upon. So
Thanks for tuning into the Music Scope. I'm Scarlett Coates and I'll be your host for this segment, New Music Releases for 2015. Now, let's get straight into it. What are some of the new releases for this year? So, here are some to name a few. Drones by Muse was released on the 5th of June this year and scored a 63 out of 100 on Metacritic.com. It was their 7th album overall and it's quite a unique album because there is a story hidden within the tracks. To summarise, this arc follows the story of one individual in the world of drones, killing machines and reapers, and their struggle to survive in this new world. The Stereophonics also released a new album this year on the 11th of September. It's called Keep the Village Alive. It also scored a 63 out of 100 on Metacritic.com, and it's their 9th album overall. This album also managed to top the UK charts upon its release. In other news, Owl City, the voice behind such hits as Fireflies and Good Time, their newest addition to the music world came in the form of Mobile Orchestra and was released on July the 10th, 2015. Metacritic.com has scored this album 53 out of 100 and say that the artist widened his palette this time and even went so far as to include other artists in some of his tracks. These include such artists as Jake Owen and Aloe Black. Estelle, the female voice behind American Boy with Kanye West, released her newest album this year called True Romance. And this is her 4th album to be released. True Romance scored a 64 out of 100 on Metacritic.com and is a follow-up to 2012's All of Me. In a chronicle of love anchored by 4 themes: passion, courage, bullshit and true romance. The album was released on February the 17th this year. The Swedish DJ we all know, Avicii, came out with Stories on the 2nd of October this year. And that too also scored a 64 out of 100 on Metacritic.com. RollingStone.com also said that the album did very well in their view, scoring about the same. So, let's move on to what's to come. Now, Coldplay is where we're holding our breath, as their newest album is set to debut on December the 4th this year. They have tracks to come, such as Birds, which sounds very exciting to me. A Head Full of Dreams will be their 7th album overall. Now, as for the Gorillaz, everyone's wondering where they are. They haven't released an album in so long, and fans are starting to wonder if they're ever going to make anything new. Now, Gorillaz collaborator Jamie Hewitt has confirmed that he and Damon Albarn are working on the group's next album, with the release scheduled for next year. Albarn recently announced that the pair have planned to record their follow-up to 2011's The Fall during September. Now, onto our interview. I'm speaking with an individual on location and their thoughts of some of the releases this year, and ones that haven't even been mentioned so far. I'm here with Alice. She is a music enthusiast and has been since a young age. Alice, have there been any new releases this year that have taken your fancy?
I don't know, there's this album called Volume that came out by Skindred, which I think is particularly good. Also, I don't know, there have been a few other ones that have come out this year, but I can't think of them currently, which have been good.
That's fine, that's fine. Is there anything that you didn't think you would like that took you by surprise? Like a band that you wouldn't usually listen to and you thought, it's actually okay?
I think Jamie T did that. I listened to some of his stuff over the summer and I was like, oh, this is actually quite good. I don't mind it. So I think that was one, and that's the same for Skindred, I think, as well, because they are a mixture of both metal, reggae, and dubstep. So, although it doesn't seem like it should work, it does, and
that's cool.
It's good.
Have you been to any concerts this year, or are you going to any?
Yes, this summer I went to go and see AC/DC. I also saw someone in January, but I can't remember who. And then I also got to see Black Sabbath again in March, which was pretty nice.
Oh, that's really cool. You get to see your favourite bands, because I know they're really hard to come by, aren't they? Especially tickets-wise.
Yeah.
Because they sell out really quickly. Have you heard anything by Muse this year, like their new album, Drones?
Yes, I have heard it. There aren't many songs on that album that I like as much. I find their work from their previous albums is much better. For example, like I find Black Holes and Revelations, that album is so good. I don't even mind the Second Law either. That album's pretty good as well. Even though that one came out only a few years ago. I don't know. I guess I was expecting quite a lot from Drones. I was just like, this is going to be such a good Muse album.
It's a different turn, you know. They're taking it somewhere different, which every band has the right to do.
Yeah.
They're doing all sorts of things. What do you expect, or what do you wish in the future for bands? Like, a new album that you haven't heard from a band in a while, or do you want any new songs? What do you think might happen?
I don't know. I think that there are going to be a lot more albums coming out soon from artists which were famous a while back. For example, AC/DC or...
They might do a renewal album.
Yeah, or Black Sabbath. And I find they're fine, but you kind of get reminded of how old they are.
Yeah.
Like, Marilyn Manson, he released an album and you can hear that he's not as fresh as he used to be, and it's such a shame because you're like, oh, I just want it to be so good and how it used to be, but you just sound like a 40-year-old man singing, which he is, but you just get reminded of that, and you're like, oh no, I don't want you to get old and fat, I just want you to kind of stay the same.
That's fine. Yeah. Time is an annoying thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Alice, for joining me today. Thank you for
welcome.
answering my questions, and let's hope for music in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Back to the studio.
That just about wraps it up for this week's Music Scope. Tune in next week for new releases on the Download Festival lineup and a chat with Lemmy himself on his career in Motorhead.
Light in the flame. It's a birthday party of someone.
One joint won't hurt, will it?